Hello, I'm Pieter Pienaar and I am sitting here in Jeddah with a Jeddah mug in my hand onto which I had my Jeddah artworks sublimated. I'm showing you this because I will refer to digital printing in this talk. I started my teaching career as an English teacher in 1990, but in 1998 I accepted a primary school art teaching position, and that is how I became an art teacher. Oh, before I forget, I hail from the Kuruman Kalahari area, and in this talk I will show you my Kalahari artworks. Perhaps it's not a talk, it is a one-sided discussion, or in Shakespearean terms, a soliloquy. Please enjoy my talk and pay attention to my online statements. We are indeed in a peculiar time in history. Thank you for joining me. However, in this video, I will be focusing solely on my traditional drawings and paintings, which I want to present as a unit to my friends. The Kalahari and its people are the main themes of most of these works because it is where I spend my school holidays. Someone jokingly told me once that the South African art buyer likes uncle, tree and stream, which I translated as traces of faces and places. I just want to state that this video is not a marketing ploy of mine. It is more like a retrospective glance. I do not have any works for sale and I do not take commissions. Many of these works you will see were done more than 20 years ago, and they are definitely not available anymore. I am indeed trying to find a little internet spot for my works, as many other artists are doing currently, and this video will become a segment of my website too. As an artist, I have not yet attained the status of a successful full-time artist able to make a living off his art, and it may never be my privilege. I am of the opinion that perhaps the world has changed a little too much recently for most of us who fall into the hobby artist category. Reaching for full-time artist status may have become even harder, I think, as I will explain. Just a little note here. I think our global world and our individual worlds have expanded so much that we are visually saturated because of the use of smartphones. All of us, including the artists, are now being forced to try new marketing techniques in order to make an impact somewhere in the digital universe. We are now faced with the problem of presenting our works in novel ways to extend their reach, which digital printing allows us to do. A single artwork, unless you are extremely famous, will not bring you very far. You have to reproduce it somehow to increase its visibility. I just want to mention that I have in no way mastered any aspect of art marketing, and hopefully our love for the aesthetic things will be larger than our greed. I almost forgot The quality of most of the photos you will see here is not that good. And that is because years ago I did not own a good camera. However, that is not something we need to worry about these days, because our smartphones have built-in smart cameras. Like many other full-time teachers, I can only paint during the school holidays, and that is why I feel I have to work fairly fast. I think my art styles fall into the more spontaneous and freer style categories. I deliberately mention this because some people still believe that only realistic works are real artworks. As an art teacher, I have to disagree with that notion, but each of us may entertain any opinion we fancy. As art teachers, we are constantly on the lookout for new art techniques and ideas to make our art lessons more interesting. I think you may see an element of that experimental stance in my works. As a South African, I'm very fond of the works of the early South African masters such as Maggie Loubser, Irma Stern, Pieter and Walter Battes, just to mention a few.
I am back. Today I feel like a university professor, because those of us who had the luxury of going to university, some of our professors wrote books and then they prescribed those books to the students. This is my Journey with Jeddah book that was published about 5 or 6 months ago, and I want to read you a few lines from the introductory chapter to underline a few of my online statements. We are living in a visual and virtual period with such great possibilities and opportunities that it is almost impossible to stop dreaming. And the invention of new devices and software applications are just multiplying our options by the day. The invention of the first camera in the middle of the 19th century sparked the Impressionism movement in art, and now, almost 160 years later, the realities of the digital camera and digital printing have spoiled the artist for choice. The point I want to make is that most artists, even part-time ones like me, and all people for that matter, are lured into the entrepreneurial domain, whether we like it or not, simply because the virtual culture around us is speaking or showing a faster visual language nowadays, and when anyone slips a photo of an artwork into the social domain, it immediately becomes tinged with an element of advertising. Our smartphones have turned all of us into some kind of salespeople, whether we like it or not. As visual artists, we occasionally have the luxury of showcasing our works. As you will see, I used inverted commas when I referred to visual artists. Our phones beckon us to take photos and to record, which is in essence what all artists do. Now I want to end my talk by reminding you not to forget there is art in your heart. Bye bye. God bless.